Welcome to another Monday solo round of the Unstoppable podcast. This is episode 56.
My name is Dan J. Gregory, and I am committed to hunting down the secrets of business mastery and human performance. My goal for the Unstoppable podcast is to share insights from some of the most successful entrepreneurs, inspiring thought leaders, world-class athletes, and prominent celebrities to help you to become unstoppable in business and life. Each week I'll be bringing you a new interview with an inspiring person and sharing my own results as I pursue the answers to the question, how can I create the ultimate edge in my business, make a significant impact, and live an extraordinary life?
Alrighty, welcome to another live episode of the Unstoppable podcast. I'm broadcasting this live on Facebook. So if you're not a fan of the Facebook page yet and you're listening to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform, do come and check out my Facebook page and you can tune in live every single Monday. So last Monday, I talked about what does it mean to be unstoppable. I gave my definition of what it meant with 4 different components, and I also shared the details of my forthcoming Unstoppable Manifesto, where I really go deep into what I personally believe it means to be unstoppable and how you can become unstoppable in business and life. And then on Thursday last week, we talked to Heather DeSantis, and she talked about how you can get media coverage for your business. It was a mind-blowing episode. It's really opened my eyes to what's possible. She shared some amazing client stories around how she's helped many of her clients get publicity on television, radio, mainstream media, all these major blogs. So in that episode last Thursday, we dived deep into how you can use PR in your business. I made a commitment that I'm going to find a way to get on the BBC somehow, whether it's on the website, the TV, or the local radio station by the end of this month. So challenge accepted. If you're interested in joining me on the PR challenge, then do comment below and let me know what you'd like to do, and we'll connect and share ideas. And I'm sure I can connect you with Heather as well, who she'll be able to help out. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the twin forces that control all of our success. And I almost had to take a bit of a deep breath before recording this episode because I'm going to get really personal. I had a really deep conversation on Friday morning with my personal coach, and it was profound. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you because I know if you heed what I speak to you about today, it could potentially change your life. Because in a matter of minutes, my life changed as a result of the conversation I had on Friday. And there are 2 things that really influence the quality of our lives and the quality of our success. And, you heard other speakers talk about potentially, it's, the principle of pleasure, pain that guides our life. And that in one hand is true. But I'm going to be talking to you today about 2 specific forces that I believe control or will accelerate or destroy your success. Those 2 things are, number 1, self-love, and number 2, self-worth. Now, they are, you could argue, inextricably linked, and things like self-confidence and self-belief will certainly stem from those 2 core pillars. And I'm going to really focus on one pillar today. I'm going to be focusing on self-love. And the reason why this conversation is taking place right now is because of a conversation that I had on Friday. And every Friday, I exchange coaching sessions with a good friend of mine. He coaches me and I coach him. We have 45 minutes together, very high intensity, high performance coaching. And last Friday, it was my turn to kick off the session. So I asked him during the course of our conversation, because he'd been sending me some of his feedback around what his plans were over the next 12 months in his communication with me in that week. And I didn't have true clarity around what he really wanted. So I asked him the question. And it was a hypothetical question, and some of the things we'll be talking about today are hypothetical, but it gets you to think really clearly about what you truly want. I asked him, if the world was to end in 12 months' time, how would you be spending your time over those 12 months? And what exactly would you want to look back on over those 12 months? Imagine you'd reached the end point, looking back at the world ending. What did you want to achieve? What did you want to do? How did you want to express yourself? What mark did you want to leave in the world? And, he had his answer to that. And, there were some wonderful things that he came up with. And then I asked another question. I said, what if there was just 12 hours left? If there was just 12 hours left on this planet, whether, it's hypothetical or not, it really does shape how we make our decisions. And if we did have 12 hours left, I'm sure the things we are doing right now may not be the things that we would possibly do in those last 12 hours. So when you ask someone, what would you do if you only had 12 hours left? It really causes you to filter what's most important to you. And again, I'm not going to go into his answers, they're personal to him, but when it became around to my turn and it was his turn to coach me, of course, he gave me the same drill. And he asked me what I would do in the next 12 months. And then the big question came, what would I do in the next 12 hours if I just had 12 hours to live? And before I get into the answer to that, it really led to another question across all of this conversation, which is, what is life all about? What does life mean to me? What does life mean to you listening to this or watching this? What is life about? And my answer, and this is, by the way, this is going to be unique to everyone. Everyone has their own meaning, but it's certainly a question that's worth considering. What does life mean to you? What is it all about? And my answer was, life is all about meaningful experiences. It's about creating meaningful experiences for those that you love and yourself. This rich, resourceful world that we live in, this magnificent planet, this magnificent human race, all the blessings that we have around us, the trees, nature, the sea, the cultures. There's so much glory in the world. So for me, life is about engaging with meaningful experience and sharing it with others. But it's also about making a difference. It's also about contributing to mankind. It's also about leaving the world a better place than I found it. That for me is a major driver. And that's, part of the reason why I put this podcast together. And, the work I'm doing right now is all in my effort to make a difference in the world. And then finally, it's about fulfilling your potential or growing your potential, because the idea of fulfilling your potential to me means that there's a cap on it. And I believe that we're constantly growing, and growth in itself is a real key component of potential. So, I believe that we're put on this planet with certain gifts, talents, and abilities, and it's our job as humans to find out what those things are and use those skills, talents, and ability to our fullest. So we had this general discussion about what life is all about. And when we talked about creating meaningful experiences, and I said I'd share those experiences with the people I loved, my coach asked me, who do I love? And I said, I'm not going to list everyone I love. There's lots of people in my life. And he said, list them. And I said, okay, let's go for this. And that's also a fun exercise to do, by the way. And I started listing, obviously my friends, my family, my partner, Lizzie, and all these people I was listing off. And it's funny because you don't want to miss anyone off. You're thinking about all the relationships, the friendships you've had, and you're answering the question, who do I love? You don't want to miss anyone off. You kind of feel guilty, even though, they're not going to know that you missed them off in a one-to-one conversation. And I carried on going. And eventually, my coach stopped me and he said, "That's interesting," because I said at the end of it, I guess I also love myself. I also love myself. So the question was, who do I love? And I listed off all the people close to me. And then finally, I acknowledged that I love myself. And, obviously, without even his interjection, I realized there was a challenge there that, I left myself to last. And on one hand, I think it's nice because in that moment, I was thinking about other people before myself. But then, on the other hand, like anything in life, we'd also been having, some off the cuff discussion around fitness. And in the fitness world, to give you some parallel, we both track our fitness quite intensely. Fitness and health is very important to us. And right now, I track everything. I'm on a real mission, and there is a point to this tangent. So every day I use MyFitnessPal, an app, to track exactly what calories I'm consuming every single day, the different macros, the different micros, all the things I'm putting in my body. And that gives me a daily summary of all the things that I'm putting in my body. And then I also have other tools and resources that I use to track the calories that go out, from the activity I'm taking, the walks I'm doing, the energy I'm burning in terms of my energy expenditure. So by doing that, if I wasn't tracking what goes in and what goes out, I could get an imbalance. And the reason I'm sharing this story, and the reason I'm linking it back to the question of the answer that I gave to the question of who do I love, is all those people became first, which again, I think I like the sentiment. But the challenge is, if you only think about who you love before loving yourself, then like that fitness example, if I only focused on the calories that go out and I don't replenish the calories that come in, then I'm going to be very quickly worn out. And, there's been times recently where, I've been working so hard, so focused on what I'm doing that, I forget to top things up for myself. And, I felt, you get to the point where you kind of feel emotionally drained. You're so caught up in what you're doing that you feel almost emotionally drained. So the question came, how much do you love yourself? And that's not an easy question to answer. It's not the kind of question you wake up to and ask yourself every single day, and perhaps it should be. And it was a tough question. He said, how much do you love yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And I said, oh, that's an interesting question. That is an interesting question. How much do you love yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And I'm going to be brutally honest. I spend a lot of time working on myself. I developed my body, my mindset, my business, my relationships. And it got to that point of realization, having just said what I just said about, if you expend too many calories without replacing them, you kind of become tired, worn out. And I realized in that moment when he said, how much do you love yourself? My answer was ridiculously low. It was low. And it's not because I have low self-worth or low self-esteem, but it is just I haven't given myself the time to truly love myself. And, I'm talking here about two different pillars of success, one being self-love and one self-worth. If you do not truly love yourself, then you can't truly love other people. And if you don't truly love yourself, you can't truly express yourself in business, in your relationships, in your body. And, if you're struggling in any area of your life externally, and, the conversation, by the way, began with external results, and there's lots of things in my life that I'm really happy about. But to be brutally, frankly honest, there's some areas of my life that I'm really not happy about. I'm really not happy about the results, the external results. And in order to change the external results that you're experiencing, the only way to do that is by changing the results inside of you first. It's almost cliched, work on yourself and the outside will change, but it's so true. It's so true. So in that moment when I realized, actually, I'm not loving myself as highly as I should be, and by the way, the answer was below 5 out of 10, which I'm ashamed about, but I'm so pleased that I discovered that, in that moment, having that powerful question, how much do I love myself on a scale of 1 to 10, it really shone light on the situation. And, a lot of the conversations I have on the podcast when it comes to creating change is about shining lights on the area that needs to change. And this was an area that became massively important. And, I hope in listening to this or watching this right now, you're taking this in and thinking, how much do I love myself? If you were to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your self-love? And how comfortable do you feel even answering that question? Because, if you're thinking, well, I can't be a 10 because if I was 10, that could be arrogant or that could be overconfident. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. There is no arrogance. There's nothing. There's no harm. There's no negative. There's no poor sign of being full of love. This world, in fact, right now needs more love than ever before. And, they say charity starts at home. Well, I think change in this world can start at home too when it comes to how much we love ourselves. Being able to look in the mirror and truly say, I love you at yourself. I'm looking into the camera on Facebook Live right now, just saying it to myself. I love myself. Try it. Try it right now. See how it feels. Does it feel comfortable? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love yourself? You see, if you don't truly love yourself, then I can guarantee you that is the source of some of the external results that you're experiencing in your life that you're not happy about. Whether it's your finances, if you're not happy with your financial circumstances right now, your relationships or your body, I can guarantee that somehow if you trace the line back, it comes back to how much you love yourself. So how much do you love yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And it can be changed. And you know what? And I move on to next, how I managed to make a change in the moment. But one thing before I move on, I want to say is, in order to love others, I was talking about that situation, the answer to the question, who do I love? And I listed off all those people. In order for me to continue to give my love to those people and give my love to the things I'm doing, I have to fill myself up first. You have to top yourself up with love. If you're not feeling fully in love with yourself, then you're going to have challenges giving love to others and really succeeding in what you're doing. So think about that. But I'm going to tell you how I created change because, the next question that comes obviously is, how do I get to level 10? How do I get to level 10 self-love? And if you're watching this or you're listening to this, I can guarantee you at some point in your life, you've experienced, whether you allow yourself to believe it or acknowledge it or not, that you've experienced that level 10 self-love. And I encourage you right now in this moment, whether you're watching this live on Facebook, if you are watching this live on Facebook, do say hello. I am tuned in to who's here and I would love to acknowledge you. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, then just think about that for a minute. When was the last time that you felt 10 out of 10 true self-love? Self-love. And it's not, about being arrogant or overconfident. This is about really feeling the presence of true love of self in your body. When was the last time you felt that? And what were you doing? What were you doing in the moment that you experienced those 10 out of 10 self-love, moments? Because we've all had them. Don't deny yourself that presence of that love. You've had it. You've had it within yourself. When did you have it? What did it look like? What did it feel like? And my answer to that question confused the heck out of me, if I'm honest. It really did. Because all I could think about when I answered that question for myself was these moments of sheer joy, happiness, and bliss where I wasn't doing anything. I thought, that's interesting. Because I'm always looking for ways, methods, strategies, ways to do things to create a result. And I was thinking, 10 out of 10 self-love, wasn't doing anything, fully present in the moment. I thought of a couple of weekends ago when I was with my friends. We had a boys' weekend in the countryside. We went glamping, and there was just one moment I can distinctly remember it, where the sun was shining. Just picture this for the moment. This gigantic field, which was kind of like this giant bowl. Like all the fields kind of descended into this central point where our camp was. So you could really not see above the horizon. It was just this magnificent rolling fields all around us. The sky was just the sheerest blue. The sun was shining. It was warm. And I was there with some of my closest and dearest friends. And we were just throwing like the ball to each other, just, playing this Nerf game. If you ever played Nerf, just great fun, highly addictive. But we were just having this moment, just playing. I was just there with my friends, not thinking about anything. Not thinking about anything, not trying to do anything, not trying to be anybody. I was just being and having that magnificent moment of pure happiness and joy and fun. And, just for a moment, I just felt myself kind of disconnect from the moment that I was in and really just appreciate that moment of joy and happiness. And then I was really awakened because we were playing ball and some of my friends can throw the ball pretty hard. So all of a sudden I had to wake up and snap out of it and catch this thing before it hit me in the face. But I had that moment where I just felt truly just happy and joyous. And in that moment, I felt true self-love. There was nothing. I wasn't trying to be anything. I wasn't trying to do anything. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to be a certain character. I was just being me, fully showing up. No obligation to the world, just being. And every single moment that I could recall where I'd felt that same level of self-love, where, I just felt truly in tune with myself. Similar situations, not trying to do something, not trying to be something, just being present, just being me, fully present. And that confused the heck out of me because when, I look at things in business, I'm looking, how do I achieve the result? And there's strategies, there's mindset, there's all this kind of stuff. And it struck me, these external results we're all going after. Perhaps if we were just allowing ourselves to be fully in tune with ourselves and be fully who we are and show up fully as we are as a human being in this world, and perhaps those external results will change pretty damn fast. And it suddenly had that aha moment. I couldn't connect the dots and I realized it's something we just can't force. Self-love isn't something you have to force. It's something you have to feel and be and do. That's just there. You have to allow it, accept it into yourself and just experience it. So I had all these different moments and I was like, how do I replicate that? How do you replicate that? And the answer is just be. Just be. Don't try and force things up the hill. Don't try and create things that aren't natural to you. Just be. And, that was just for a light-up moment. And I'm going to go even deeper in a minute because that moment when I realized that, I wasn't feeling full self-love, but then that moment also of not acknowledgement of what it takes and what it feels like to be at that level of self-love, just totally free, was a magic moment in itself. So then I started to look at, okay, so if I'm not feeling full self-love and I can see what it likes and, I can really feel what it feels like to feel that total self-love, what's the gap? What is the gap? And that was when my brain was trying to look for strategies and things to try and link it all up. But what I realized was one of the limiting factors is I felt it. In this moment, we're having this coaching conversation where we're exploring the whole concept of self-love and its impact. I felt this tightness in me in that moment because, I was searching for answers. How do I go from like a below 5 out of 10 to 10? How do I go there? My brain's looking for answers. And I intuitively knew the answer. And, this is a personal conversation. I've only shared this with some very close people so far. And, I didn't know whether it was right for me to do this, but I know that there'll be people listening to this or watching this that will this conversation will create massive change for you if you allow it to. So we were talking about, self-love, and my coach asked me, who do you love? And I listed all the people off. And then the question came, 12 hours left, what would you do? And my answer was, first of all, if there was genuinely 12 hours left on this planet, I'd probably cry. This is a beautiful planet. I ain't ready to go yet. People on this planet aren't ready to go yet. I'd be damn upset that the planet is over. But, you can't waste too much time dwelling on the inevitable. So after that had passed, the first thing I would do is call all the people I love to tell them that I love them. If you think about that for yourself, if you only had 12 hours left, what's most important for you to do? For me, it was I have to tell everyone that I love them. And that was when the moment of realization hit me. Because all those people I listed, there was people who I could easily call up. I could pick up the phone and pick up the easy ones, the easy conversations to say I love you to my friends. But then there was people on my list that were perhaps the most close to me, and I felt resistance in my body. Of course, I love them dearly, but I felt that challenge. Even in the face of 12 hours remaining, if there was just 12 hours remaining on the earth and I had to call everyone I love, I'd pick them off one by one, all my friends, easy conversations. But then do you know what? I'm admitting this, I would struggle. I felt like I would struggle to call my family, even though I love them dearly, and tell them that I love them. But it wasn't just my family. There's one specific person in my family. And, he doesn't mind me sharing this story because I know it's going to create change in other people's lives. But the challenge I had was expressing that I love my father, which I do. Yeah, I completely do. Absolutely. He's my dad. But there's a whole family tree to this, because throughout the generations, and if any of my family are watching this, they'll probably know what I'm talking about. And if you're listening or watching this, you probably can also relate to this. I'm sure you've experienced something like this. But, my father has come from a very traditional northern family of people, and the northern male, let's look at the traditional northern male stereotype from the 1950s, is not necessarily that in tune with expressing their emotions. So the concept of telling people that you love them openly and expressing your emotions fully is quite off the table, let's say, for those people. And then, of course, the generation prior to that, the same applies. So in my family, my dad was born from a place where, it wasn't normal to be expressing emotion. So, I've always struggled with my dad on that basis in terms of, I don't feel comfortable saying I love you directly, and I don't think he did either back to me. And do you know what? I had a conversation with my dad, which I'll come on to in a minute, but I know it's the same. The same is true for his father, my grandfather and him. And I thought, I know this is a block. This is a block for me. This, my brand here, the Unstoppable brand, is about defying limits. What is it that limits us? And I knew that self-love that I've been talking about throughout this episode, I felt limited by the fact that I felt like I could not express myself fully to my family to tell them directly that I love them. Even when I was talking about the hypothetical situation of 12 hours remaining, I would happily call each of my friends, but then I would probably spend the next 11 hours out of those 12 fretting about how I'm going to call my parents and tell them directly I love you, which is crazy, because think about how difficult some things are in the world versus just picking up the phone, telling someone you already love that you love them. Real challenge. So then, in this conversation, my coach, just to push me even harder, he says, when are you going to do it? When are you going to call your parents, your family, your dad specifically, and tell them that you love them? And I said, well, I've got a meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. The conversation, by the way, was taking place at 12 o'clock, this particular conversation. Got a meeting tonight at 6, so I'll probably walk there, and I can make the phone call then. I'll call my dad and have this conversation with him. And he said, look, Dan, imagine this. You've seen Back to the Future, and I hope this reference makes sense to you as well. Back to the Future, where Doc Brown rocks up in his, I forget the car, the DeLorean, time machine. And he comes to you and he says, Dan, just wanted to let you know that a bus hits you down on the way to that meeting tonight, and you never got the opportunity to tell your dad that you loved him. And like, I was so deep in this conversation and visual, like this was all hypothetical, and sorry to bring this down on you. But the point was, if you wait, even if it's hypothetical, you never know if the opportunity will come and go if you ever to do that. And do you know what? In anything in life, when you've got to do something important, if you put it off to later, even if it's rational to put it off to later, you might regret it for the rest of your life, especially when it comes to these important things. Now, this whole conversation, for anyone who's just joined on Facebook, we're talking about some of the things that are most important to you in life. I was posed the question, what would I do if I had 12 hours left to live? And I knew that I wanted to tell people I love them. And I had this challenge telling my dad. So after that Doc Brown moment, I was like, right, I'm going to do it now. And then, of course, your brain's like, okay, I'll send a text message, take the easy route. I'll email. No direct response there. And I asked him, I said, what would you do? And he said, and he turned the question back on me, rightly so. And I was like, I know what I've got to do. And he said, okay, this conversation ends in 5 seconds. This conversation will self-destruct in 5 seconds. So off we get, off the coaching call we go. And I breathe, and I'm like, all of a sudden, I talked about that 11-hour wait, and finally getting to that last hour, what I would have done if it was genuinely the last 12 hours on earth, to have the balls, to get the courage to have that conversation, which is, looking back on, it's a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing to think that. But I felt all that tension right there and then in my body, like, right, I'm going to do this now. It's like looking at the time, my brain's making excuses. When do I do this? Look at my watch. Oh, it's lunchtime. Let's do this. So I go for a walk, get myself in the zone, pick up the phone, call my dad. My dad's on lunch. Perfect. Good. I said, can you talk now? My brain was like, don't be ready to talk now. I'm not ready for this. He was ready. So, we started having a little bit of rapport, chat, normal stuff. What are you up to? How's the day been? That kind of stuff. And I'm like, look, Dad, I've had this coaching conversation this morning. Explain the circumstance. He knows the types of conversations I have. He knows what I do. So I say, look, I have this important conversation today, and I explain the situation. I explain the whole situation. I said, look, I've got this tension inside of my body. I know that self-love is one of the most important ingredients to success. If you don't fully love yourself, then it's really tough to create the level of results you want in your life, whether it's your business, your relationships, your health. If you don't fully love yourself, it's really challenging. So I explained the whole situation. I said, look, I know I'm very conscious of one of the things that holds me back from expressing myself fully as a human being is that I have this conflict and this lack of ability to tell you directly as my father that I love you. And that was a tough conversation. It took guts. But I believe, and I made some stereotypes, references about northern men gone by. I do it all in jest in a way, but take the essence of it, because I believe now, and women, this is for you as well, but men, I believe the true masculine man, the true fearless man, is willing to embrace every single one of his emotions. Now, that at either end of the spectrum, I think if you're truly fearless, you have no fear of any emotion. And I had the fear of expressing love. How can I expect to do the things I want to do in this world if I have the fear of expressing love to those who are close to me? I made the decision in that moment I was going to change that. My family tree, this whole generational thing of not being able to express ourselves, I made a decision that stops right now. I call my dad, I explain the situation, and I say, look, Dad, I love you dearly. We may have our conflicts, which we do. We don't always see eye to eye. I'm sure it's the same in any family situation. But I said, I love you dearly. And it was a really, really powerful conversation. And, he said, I love you back, son, of course. And, we had a conversation about, sometimes there's other ways of showing love. And, it's sometimes about the acts of love, or, doing things for other people. And, there's a whole different topic. There are 5 different love languages, and there's a whole book on that. You could read on that. But I said, look, there's nothing more direct than going to someone and telling them that you love them. So that conversation was one of the toughest conversations I've had, but it's one of the most liberating, powerful, freeing conversations that I've ever had in my life. And of course, I didn't stop there. I called my mother, told her the same. I didn't have the same awkwardness, but I know that I'd had some challenges, especially since I made the choice to leave my corporate career behind several years ago. It's a different roadmap for them. They're used to more traditional job paths. So, I've kind of gone off piste, and we've had some conflict around all of that in the past. So I called my mum, told her I loved her, called my sister, told her I loved her. My sister even called me back a few minutes later and said, Dan, you're not dying, are you? I was like, sis, I told you the story. We had this hypothetical conversation about 12 hours, right? This hypothetical conversation around 12 hours. What would you do if you had 12 hours left to live? And I also made a decision having done all that. And I had some beautiful gifts from that conversation, that if you live your life as if there is just 12 hours to go, imagine how life would be different. Imagine how your life today would be different if you lived like you just had 12 hours to go. So what would you be doing this evening, this afternoon? I don't know if you're watching this or listening to this in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, where you are. Imagine if you felt like you just had 12 hours to go. How would you show up today? I talked about that moment of showing up with full self-love. It was when I was just being fully myself. Imagine today you just showed up as the best version of you and you were just on fire. And trust me, Although after those kind of conversations where I had those like deep, meaningful conversations with my family, I felt kind of emotionally drained. It had to be done. I was tired. All that stress I put myself under having these conversations. I felt so free, so empowered. So imagine if you lived like that right now, 12 hours to go. Just hypothetically, how would you live? What would you be doing today? And just think about, what are all the things you're about to do? And do they light you up? Are you doing the things that you should be doing right now? Are you following the path that your heart knows you should be following? And I've had some amazing conversations this week with some amazing entrepreneurs, people just starting their journey. And I know there's these things inside of them that are holding them back. Don't hold back. None of us know how long we've got. You have to confront reality. We can all live from a place of, yeah, I'll live forever. No one lives forever. You got to do what you got to do. And get the courage. I talk about being fearless. You live once. Don't regret things. In that example, if something had happened to me and I had been taken off this planet and I hadn't had the opportunity to have that conversation, even though I wouldn't be here to regret it, I would regret it. Or if it had happened the other way around, I would have regretted it all my life. So when you live like you've got just 12 hours to go, the conversations you have, think about it. How many times have you been in an argument and you've gone off and sulked? I have. My sister gave me a gift. She said, I never leave the scene of an argument sulking, because if it is the end of the, she has that belief. She wants to live like it is her last day, and she will share. She shared that with me, and I was like, wow, I've learned something today. Because if you do leave an argument, you leave yourself stewing over it, you never know what might happen. You never want to leave the scene of an argument. You don't want to create those regrets. So I know I've taken it pretty deep today. I did warn you at the beginning, I'm doing this on Facebook Live. Some people have joined halfway through. They're probably thinking, what the hell is going on here? What is this conversation? This is deep. In England right now, it's 6:30. People just got home from work and they're like, what is this deep conversation? But it's a conversation that I hope you take to heart, because it's for me, it's been life-changing. It's only a few days in, but for me, that one conversation, it was the one thing that I really felt was limiting me from experiencing that true self-love. And I honestly believe that self-love is one of the critical components for every level of success in your life. The conversation I had at the beginning of this call was about the areas of my life that I'm dissatisfied with, that I want to create change. And, we could have conversation around the strategies, to make change, whether it's my finances, my fitness, my relationships. You can talk the external strategies all day long. But I truly believe the results that we have in our life externally are a mirror of what's going on inside. And those two pillars I've talked about today, self-love and self-worth. Self-worth, I'm going to do a whole session on that another time. Today, I just wanted to focus on self-love. It's a big enough topic in itself. But I want to give you the opportunity today to really think about that. How much do you love yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And what do you need to do to take yourself to that 10? You know when you've been a 10. You know when you've been there. What do you need to do to take yourself there? What conversations do you need to have? What actions do you need to take? How do you need to show up and be to enable yourself to feel that 10 out of 10 self-love? Because I can guarantee your life will change in a moment. Your life will change in a minute. So give yourself the opportunity to free yourself, feel that self-love. Because if you love yourself, then you can love others deeper, more vibrantly. You can show up more presently in your relationships. You can take more care of your body. You can get better results in your business, your finances, every area of your life once you love yourself more. So I'm going to leave you on that note today. It's been a big session. It's been a slightly longer episode for me on my Monday solo rounds. This is totally unscripted. I've got a couple of notes here on my page. I hope you found this valuable. And I've had so many conversations this week with so many people that have got so many big dreams and passions, but there's that inner voice that's holding people back. I'm on a mission to take that voice out. You can't eliminate it. You can't eliminate that. There's the good voice that encourages you to go after your dreams, that shares your excitement, and there's that little voice in your shoulder that says, who are you to, who do you think you are? You can never do that. I'm here to help shine a light on that little voice and crush the little thing into tiny little pieces, because if you've got dreams, you've got a vision, and there's things you want to create in your lifetime, my mission on this planet is to help you deliver that mission, deliver on your dreams and goals. So if you want some help overcoming those things that are limiting you, it could be some of the things we talked about today. I'm going to be setting up a whole range of strategy sessions where you and I can get together one-to-one, 45 minutes to an hour, to talk about what your goals are and where you're holding yourself back. And I really want to focus on the inner game stuff, because there's strategies. I can share strategies with you all day long. I get so excited of business strategies. I can share, if you've ever spent any time with me on business, I had a meeting that was maybe 45 minutes long last week. I ended up talking 2 hours on how I could help the guy grow his business. And that was just a brief meeting. But I want to talk to you about the things that are holding you back and get them off the table so you can be free to achieve the things you want to achieve in your life. If you want to join me on one of those strategy sessions, I'm offering them opportunity right now. Go onto the show notes of this blog, this podcast at danjgregory.com. You'll see a work with me tab. If you click on that, you'll have the opportunity to fill in a short form, and you and I can get on the phone and we'll talk about your goals and what's holding you back from achieving them. And we'll bust through, create a breakthrough that will enable you to create a plan to really move forward with momentum, pace, joy, happiness, and love in your life. So, we've gone deep, we've gone hard, gone fast. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. I hope it's had an impact. I hope there's something in there that will create change for you. All that's left for me to say to you today is thanks for watching, thanks for listening. See you again on Thursday. I'm back with another episode of the Unstoppable Podcast. Until then, go out there, unleash your greatness, build your empire, make your impact in the world, and live your ultimate life. You are unstoppable.